Okay, I just closed out the last week's weekly reading vlog. I've been filming content all day, so I thought I might as well just start this week's reading vlog. This is going to be an interesting week. I have so much to do, so little time. It's also like my Christmas this weekend, so there's a lot going on. So on the TBR for this week is The Co-op by Tara DeWitt, Guard by Emily McIntyre, and Juniper Hill and Garnet Flats by Devin Perry. So that's on my list. So yeah, I'm gonna keep going with series. If I'm almost finished Scarred and I'm not loving it, so I might pick up Wretched straight away as well on audio. I'm listening to Scarred via audio. I just don't have the capacity to sit down and read it. I'm just like not really keen to read it physically. It's probably not a book, and like I don't know if I would ever purchase this series anyway. So I was like, I'm just gonna listen to it on audio, but not loving it. I might have just hit a hard limit for me. I'm not gonna say. Actually, no, I will tell you guys. The main character is a villain. He's inspired by Scar from The Lion King. I'm kind of confused, like, what the genre is in this book. Like, it's kind of like a Lion King retelling, and, like, the main female character is called Sarah B, so Sarabi. And she's getting revenge on the royal family, who is Michael Farsa and Tristan Farsa. Tristan Farsa is meant to be Scar, and Michael Farsa is supposed to be Mufasa. And it's a little bit confusing. I'm not sure what the genre is here other than a retelling. I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. Like, I'm almost finished. I have like 2 hours left of the audiobook, and not much has happened. It's a little bit confusing. Tristan's also plotting against his brother. And then you got Sarah like plotting against all of them, and there's just a lot of working parts, and I just don't know if it's my favorite thing ever. But the thing that sort of put me down on the book is, so Tristan, there's like a little bit of a scene. The tension's definitely very good, but there is a scene where it's like a spicy scene, and Tristan makes a comment, and he says, says to Sarah, he's like, it was pretty much along the lines of, it was very naive of you to assume that I would stop when you told me no, or if you told me no. So it was something like that. And it was just kind of like, if the girl says no, she says no. So I don't know, I have a little bit left. I will give Wretched a chance because the 4th book is coming out in February, and I know a lot of the girls love Wretched from the book club. So I'm going to give Wretched a try. And if it is a hard no for me at any point, I will not be continuing with the series. So I don't know I think Wretched's like an Alice in Wonderland retelling. I don't know, when we get to it I'll tell you, but yeah, I don't know. Hooked was average. Scarred is not my favorite, so I'm a bit sad, but yeah. And I'm like 20% into the Co-op, and it's quite funny. I'm enjoying it. The female main character is a lawyer, or like studying law like me, so I feel seen a little bit. Her best friend also is studying law, and there's like a lot of banter, and she's like reunited with this boy that she had like a summer relation with, like, 10 years ago, when she was 18, when she was visiting her grandma, and like his grandma and her grandma were together, and now they have passed, and they have to renovate their grandmother's house to like sell, and it's a marriage of convenience, and so the reason they get married, from what I can gather, is when they haven't got married yet, but the reason I think they're getting married is because so that she can get access to her trust fund to then fund the renovation. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I am very keen to get to Devin Perry as well, so I'm super excited. But I'm going to leave you there for today, on this Tuesday, and then I will keep updating you as the week goes on. Christmas, this tree is coming down very, very soon. I'm going to keep using this background in my vlogs until it comes down. So I'm sorry, you're going to see me sitting here a lot, but I love my Christmas tree and I love Christmas. So I went a little bit rogue after I updated you guys yesterday. So I was saying I was reading Scarred. I kept listening to it, and I ended up finishing it last night, like right before bed, and I gave it a 2 stars. The plot was like, okay, it was very slow moving, potentially too slow moving for me, I was not impressed. Now, I know these are supposed to be like dark retellings, but I don't think there is any trigger warnings at the start of the novel, whether that be ebook or on the audiobook. But there was one thing that happened that really, I'm not someone that gets triggered at all. I don't think since I've been making these videos, there's anything that's been triggering for me, but kind of put me off, and it really jarred me. Like that kind of, like, I know it's supposed to be a dark retelling, but that kind of line just really, it shocked me. It wasn't what I was expecting, but yeah, it is what it is. I gave it 2 stars. Least favorite of the series so far. Like, Hooks was just boring. Not boring, but like, it was just kind of mediocre, average, not a reread. Scarred was not right. And then today, literally in a couple hours, I finished listening to Wretched. And I wasn't going to get into it that quickly, but I was like, stuff it, let me do it. So I started Wretched and I finished it in like, I think it was like in under 3 hours. Like once I speed up the audiobook, it was quite short. I gave it 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think it's just like some of the story. I don't think Emily McIntyre's writing is necessarily bad. I think she's very good at what she does. I think it's just some of the stories just were a bit jarring for me, were a bit, yeah. This just gelled with me, and it was really mafia. Like everyone keeps saying this is a mafia series. Like I'm very confused about how people are portraying this series, but this was definitely a mafia series, and that's okay. I enjoy mafia, like, and mafia can be a little bit unhinged, but this wasn't super unhinged. There is a lot of killing and that kind of thing, so those triggers, and drug use and that kind of thing, and yeah. So pretty much, Wretched is a Wizard of Oz, like, inspired book. You have Eveline, who's meant to be like the Wicked Witch of the West or the East. The one that's named Elphaba, one that wears black in the movie. And then you've got Dorothy, who is her sister. She's unhinged. And then you have their dead sister, Nessa, who I think is meant to be the other wicked sister because their mum's name is Glenda, who's the good witch of the South, North, whatever one it is. So that's how it's supposed to work, I think. Pretty much, like, I think, like, it's not very explicit, but I think they call her Elfie. So let's call her Elfie. She has a lot of, like, anxiety and, I think, like, social anxiety and just, like, normal anxiety. So, like, that comes through in the text. I don't know whether it's explicitly meant to be that way, but to me, that's how it came across. So she's a very interesting character to read from, and she's just, like, really inspiring. And then even though she's, like, she's dark, it's dark and twisted, like, let's not forget that. And then the male main character, whose name is Nicholas, I don't know who he's supposed to be, but it doesn't matter. He is a cop and he has to go in and investigate their mafia family. So it was definitely good. These books aren't interconnected standalones, they're just separately standalones. They just come under the same sort of idea. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. 4 stars. It just kind of went through in a breeze, and I didn't even realize I had got so far into it. Took some twists and turns, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It reminded me of a lot of the Mindfuck series, so there's that. Last night I was reading the co-op, and I got 33. I got up to like 33% into this, so I read just over like 20-something% because I was at 10%, and I'm really, really enjoying this. This is so funny. People say this is grumpy sunshine, but I think it's more grumpy. Lorraine, whose family is like French from Quebec. I thought she was in law school, but she ended up dropping out of law school, and now her dad doesn't talk to her, and her parents have a lot of familial trauma. Like, they were together, then not together, and now I think they were together, not together, back together. Now I think they're not together. She has a lot of, I think she has dyslexia as well. She is dyslexic, and she is I think she also has a lot of like anxiety as well. Just as I was putting it down last night. So her grandma, when she dies, her grandma leaves her house to Lorraine, and then her wife also leaves the house to her grandson. So Lorraine and Deacon had a bit of a hookup tryst thing back when they were 18. They are now 26. it's like 8 or 10 years later. So they are just enemies. At one point, Lorraine decides to like buy all these things, and she buys like $90 cushions, and the way they scream at each other, I was like physically cackling, and it was all in capitals, and I highlighted it. And he's like, maybe I'll take a butcher knife to every pillow and let him enjoy the mess, she says. And then like they're screaming, and he says to her, so Deacon says to Lorraine, she's like, that is not a bed, this is a cot, you complete insane woman. And then she's like, get out. And they're like yelling, if you want to join us, we'll be at the hard water bar. And she goes, not likely. And he's like, even better. So like they're fighting, but he's still nice to her, saying like, come out drinking with us. It's like chaotic energy, and it's so endearing, and I am obsessed with it. And he goes, like, after they have that fight, he goes to a bar with his friends, and one of the locals who knew Lorraine from when she came to visit every summer says, I think you were just overreacting. She likes to make things better for people. Deacon was angry because he built these planter boxes, but, you know, Lorraine got all this praise, but their friend was like, she got all the praise because she went out of her way to research flowers, figure out what would best grow in those areas, and that was not what the grandmas asked for, but they appreciate it because she went above and beyond to make things even better. And so like Deacon's struggling to understand the way Lorraine's mind works, and it's obviously causing them to fight. But it is very endearing. It's very funny. There is obviously, she's got a lot of trauma from her dad who's apparently cut her off, I think. Not exactly clear as to why, other than the fact that she dropped out of law school, but he's got his own trauma from being abandoned by his dad, and his only other male fatherly figure. So yeah, and it's really good. I'm probably not going to say too much more else because it'll obviously spoil it, but highly recommend the co-op. It is so funny, so endearing. It is, yeah, I'm so into this book. It is so good. I'm going to be leaving this as like my nightly read, because like I like to just read as much as I can at night, but I'm going to nut out a book now that I'm very excited for. So I'm going to keep going with the Eden series by Devney Perry, and I am so excited. I'm going to sit down for like a good hour, 2 hours and read this. I'm so excited. I'm starting Juniper Hill first. Obviously, that's the next book in the series. That is single parent trope and grumpy. I think it's not Grumpy Sunshine, but he's very grumpy. So Knox is very grumpy. He's a chef. He works in his sister's hotel, which we saw in Christmas in Quincy and in obviously Indigo Ridge. But it's the hotel that in Christmas in Quincy, the main characters stay at. So I can't remember the female's name in Juniper Hill, but yeah, the Eden sibling is Knox. He's a chef, grumpy, and she's a single mum, left with nothing, and she is staying in Knox's loft after his sister Eloise puts it up on like some sort of website. So I'm so excited to get into this. I can't wait to get back into this world. So that is what I'm going to do. It is miserable outside. I was hoping to sit outside and read, but that's not going to happen. So I'm going to get reading and update you guys when I have more thoughts about Juniper Hill. That was like the most chaotic update I've given in my life because so much happened. But yeah. Oh, I just remembered. After I finished Wretched, I started Wicked Beauty. I'm not far into it. Wicked Beauty is like a Dark Olympus retelling. I need some water. It follows Helen of Troy, Achilles and Patroclus, whatever his name is. I can't remember how to say it. Like Patroclus, whatever. I'm just listening to the audiobook again. This is later, but I'm gonna insert this here before you see the next clip. But the audiobook says Patroclus. So it's Achilles, Patroclus, and Helen. In this like world, there is like every person like has to like, there's like the 13 Greek gods, and the plot revolves around who's going to be the next heroes. I can't remember. I don't know. I'll update you guys when I have more thoughts on it because I just can't remember now. And I really want to read Juniper Hill. So I'll tell you guys when I listen to more of Wicked Beauty, which will be later. Okay, ignore the sound of my dryer, but I just wanted to provide a little update on Juniper Hill. Oh my God, this book. Oh my God, I love Daphne Perry so much. I can't even explain. So I'm 24% into it. I'm in the middle of a chapter, but I just need to stop and discuss. So Memphis Ward, a single parent, she's running away from her family and up like somewhere in New York. I guess she's like, so she's a socialite. She comes from money, but she's run away for a reason, and she's getting constant phone calls from someone. Like at the moment, she's up to like 60 something phone calls from somebody. Don't know whether it's her child's father or her mother or her grandfather. I have no idea, but she's getting calls from somebody. She also has a kid that's constantly crying, her son, who's 2 months old, who's the same age as the son from the previous couple's book, which is so sweet. I'm obsessed. I'm getting glimpses of Winnie and Griffin, and I'm obsessed with them. They're everything, and they are so funny. Her name's Memphis Ward, so there's the Ward Hotel. So I think the sort of inspiration here is like Paris Hilton and when she did The Simple Life, I guess, the kind of thing, but like not exactly. So she's run away from something and she's working. She has no money, no nothing. So yeah, there's that. But Knox, he is not scarred, like physical scar, like he's like a damaged, like he is grumpy, but he's not grumpy because he's like just a grump. He's grumpy because he's clearly gone through something. So there's a line that's dropped earlier in the book where it's like, he says, he hears the baby crying up because they're in the loft and then like it's separate. But he hears the baby crying, so he shuts the window and goes to sleep on the other side of the house because he thinks about a family lost. And I thought that he was referring to Memphis, obviously not having her baby daddy around. But he's now said something, there's clearly like a plot that there's clearly like a story that we need to uncover. I don't think this is necessarily going to be like a mystery, but in terms of like how the last book was, but it's going to be like a mystery to the reader to figure out and see what his backstory is and why he's so like damaged, and see him open up to Memphis, which is what I think is going to be the plot of the story. Him breaking down his walls and becoming more open. At least something's happened, but he doesn't talk about it. So obviously at some point in the story, we're gonna know as a reader, but also I think Memphis is gonna find out his backstory. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I love it so much. So much. So I'm gonna keep reading until I start cooking dinner. I have no idea how I'm gonna edit this, but another point that I think I need to add on in this is I think Patroclus, he has, so obviously I think they're both bisexual. Maybe they're pansexual. I don't know, but they both like men and women, and they both think Helen's really hot. Or they're both sexually attracted to Helen. But I think Patroclus has a lot of like has a lot of anxiety, or like maybe like autistic tendencies, because like he likes things a certain way and he's like a massive planner, and like, yeah, I don't know if that's what she's trying to convey here, but I'll tell you if I find out more. Okay, so Hercules is Helen's brother. He lives in Carver City, which is where the Wicked Villain city is set, and they mentioned that he's in a polyamorous relationship. Is this? But I know that in the Wicked Villain series, he's in a relationship with Megan Hades. But is it the same Hades as in this series as well as, or is it different from this series? I'm confused. I've been confused about it since I started the Neon Gods book. I'm listening to Wicked Beauty. I have like 45 minutes left of the audiobook, and I love this. Super steamy. The plot's like action-packed. Like Helen, Achilles, and Patroclus are like competing to become the next Eros or Heros, whatever it is. It's gonna be Ares. They're competing for the role of Ares. I am so dumb. I think something that Achilles just said just solidified that this is my favorite in the series so far. Like they're going to be a throuple. I love a bit of throuple action. That sounds so strange to say on the internet. But I love like couples that like equally, like a throuple that's like equally involved. Like, and Katie Robert does such a good job of that. But Achilles just said like that he loves a confident woman. And we love a man that isn't insecure. And we love a man that doesn't have toxic masculinity traits and toxic masculinity vibes. And he loves his confident women. So favorite so far. I'm going to keep listening. I have to deal with this washing behind me. But Indigo Ridge. So I was saying yesterday that that I thought that Knox had like 2 girlfriends in the past, but no, he had a child in the past with a woman, and I don't know what's happened to them. Something's happened to them. I don't know if they're unalived or they've left. I don't know. I'm not sure, but this is going to be a goddamn favorite of the year. I love Memphis. I love Knox. This is such a good book. So yeah, I'm going to keep listening to Wicked Beauty. I'll probably have to update you guys tomorrow if I finished either of those books. Happy Friday, guys. Ignore the way I look. I just got out of bed before. I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning reading Juniper Hill, but I'll get to that in a second. I finished Wicked Beauty as well last night. I gave it a 4 stars. I loved the plot was like fun. It was good. I guess it takes a back seat to everything else. But the plot was interesting. It was very like action-packed, very different from the other books. I loved the relationship between Achilles, Helen, and Patroclus. They were so entertaining. I'm obsessed with their relationship. I don't like the hate that Katie Robert gets about these books being like only smut. And like being no plot. It doesn't pretend to be something that it's not. She owns the fact that these are smutty books. But for me, the plot and everything that makes it more enjoyable is watching these characters interact. And what, like, her characters just feel so wholesome and real and interesting and developed, and they have depth. They're not just plain vanilla boring characters. So I think that's a really great element to what she writes. So I loved watching them, and I loved the spice was really, really good. But I just love watching them. I can't even explain it. Ending was beautiful. I am so excited for the next book, which comes out in like just over a month. I believe it comes out on the 7th of February. So super, super soon. It's like, today's the 6th of January. So just over a month. But then I was reading Juniper Hill. That is my favorite book in the series. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And I can't even explain why. Daphne Perry puts like magic dust in her books. They are so entertaining and so wholesome and just so everything. I am obsessed with this book. Knox is amazing. He is like my ideal kind of guy. Tattoos, rugged, tall, dark. That's everything in a man. And Memphis is just everything. I loved everything about it. So good. And the extended epilogue was even better than the book. Well, maybe not, but not really. I was like theorizing what like the plot twist or like the climax of the story was going to be. Knox is a chef and he gets interviewed by his magazine, and like they put out photos, and they took a photo, the 3 of them together. Memphis, Knox, and Drake, they took a photo together, and I thought it was going to end up in the magazine. And at the start of the book, we learned that Memphis is running away from something. So I thought whoever she was running away from would track her through the magazine, and that's what the climax would involve. But that's not the way that it happened. But oh my god, so like it was full on. Like I kind of expected something like that was gonna happen. Like I sort of had an inkling, but I had like full body chills when it was happening. I was blown away. Oh my god, so good. Like there is trigger warnings like around children. I'm not gonna divulge too much, but yeah, if you are triggered by anything by children, things happening to children, be wary of that. But the other note, like obviously I said, Knox is a perfect man. He is like obsessed with Memphis, and all he does is constantly reassure her, and all she does is like second guess herself, but he just continues to reassure her, and he doesn't get angry about the fact that he constantly has to reassure her. And the first time he said, I love you, oh my God, I melted at the knees. And their first kiss, I melted at their knees. Like I was like audibly like screaming. Not just internally screaming, like audibly screaming. My boyfriend's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, don't worry. It's their mum, Anne is making apple pie, and she's like cursing the bloody apple tree that has so many apples, and she's like, I'm gonna cut it down. It was just like so small town wholesome energy that I loved it. And when he refers to her, he's like, my woman. Oh, so sexy. And he always calls her honey, and at first she thinks it's like this term of like, I'm trying to help you and protect you, like she's a charity case, but he just does it because he loves her, and it's so sweet. Like, honey, it's so cute. And my last sort of point that I wanted to make was like the smut was immaculate. This is definitely like I was thinking about it last night, how I'm gonna rate my books this year. So I'm doing 1 to 3. 3 is like pretty like extreme kink stuff, or probably like monster romance, alien vibes. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's sort of what I'm thinking. And then a 2-star is kind of like when they include butt stuff and start exploring like the lower grade kinks, like praise, degradation, those sort of like more tame kinks. If it's BDSM, I think it's a 3-star, a 3 chili pepper, and then a 1-star is pretty much vanilla sex, and then like sex on page. Fade to Black gets no chili pepper spice ratings like at all. There's no actual on page intercourse, and there's no spice. Like kissing and making out and doing things that's not spice. That's just romance movies. Like you get a kiss in a Hallmark movie. Like no. But the smut was like top tier, like 1-star, like 1 chili pepper rating. Like it was just so good. Like yeah, it was good, but it was basic. It was a 1 chili pepper, but it was still good. Fantastic.